Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think we'll get started and we'll just let everyone join in. Everyone's just trickling in. So, good afternoon, welcome. Lot of familiar, well, names more than faces right now. Um, let's get started. Hi, for those of you we're meeting for the first time. My name is Devina. I'm a consultant at Atma. Atma, we're an accelerator for education. We're an organization that supports education NGOs to become bigger, better, stronger by building their capacities, creating systems and processes to solve common organizational development matters they might face. We started our journey in 2007 and since then have been able to support 80 organizations in their journey of excellence. At Atma, very early on, we understood the importance of shared knowledge, especially given that our sector has very, very limited resources. Therefore, the webinar series started as a space to share our perspectives, learnings, ideas about issues or dilemmas that all of us, that organizations, NGOs face on a daily basis. The Atma webinar is a curated platform where speakers share their practical experiences that could benefit other NGOs. The topics range from human resource management to finance management to program management, fundraising, essentially all topics, all pressing topics that affect the sector as a whole. Today's webinar, very interesting. We're going to talk about how to build a great place to work. Our speaker today will shed light on the importance of building a culture of active listening by one and all. We'll also focus on activities, initiatives that ensure continuous engagement of employees across levels. Ultimately, all of this we feel leads to creating a great workplace. Three things that all of us here today can take away from this session is one, what are the key success factors for employee engagement initiatives? Responsibilities of a leader in creating a great workplace. And third, the first steps towards creating a great workplace. Our speaker today, Sunil Bablani. Sunil has been a part of the Great Place to Work organization for 5 years, has overall experience of 12 years in the consulting industry. He currently heads the business vertical, Listen.io, at Great Place to Work, where he works with leaders to implement a listening culture in their organizations. He's passionate about building tech tools which enable leaders of organizations to create and sustain a great workplace in their organization. Sunil holds an MBA degree in operations management from SIBM Bangalore and a bachelor's degree in computer engineering. He's been associated with organizations like Tata Consultancy, Capgemini, Deloitte in the past. We're so excited, Sunil, to have you here today. I think as a sector, we're increasingly starting to focus on what works for our teams and what really makes for a highly engaged, successful organization. So really looking forward to the next 1 hour. Just before I hand it over to you, just want to call out to everybody here that please share your comments, questions in the chat box. We will have about 15 to 20 minutes towards the end of the session to take on these questions. I think some of you already shared your questions at the time of registration. So we'll pick up those as well. Also, one request, please keep yourselves muted during the session, unless Sunil requests you all to unmute and ask a question. But yeah, over to you, Sunil.
Thank you so much, Devina. I hope I'm audible and visible. I think
Yes.
thank you for that introduction. I'm equally excited to speak on this topic, that this is something that is very, very close to my heart as well. And What I'm going to do today, and as I start sharing my screen, is really talk about what are the basics of creating a great workplace culture. Yeah. Uh, I'm just bringing up my screen. Please to confirm once it's visible.
Can see.
Okay. So, while we talk about great place to work and a great workplace culture, all of these are very, very fancy names in my view, right? What is a great place to work? Can I just go ahead and call my organization as a great workplace, or is it something that I need to do that is a basic building block uh, for my organization? And that's something that I'm going to cover today. But before I do that, I thought I'll quickly introduce our organization, Great Place to Work. Now, we've been in existence for more than 30 years, and it's a very, very interesting story on how we actually came into existence. And I'll just take 2 minutes there. So, back in the 70s and 80s, we had a journalist who was given a task to go out and find the worst places to work in US, right? Organizations where the workers are not treated well. He did that. He curated a listing and went back to his editor saying, these are all the organizations. How about we write a piece on this? The editor looked at the list, smiled back and said, you know what? The list is great, but if I was to do that and publish it, I'm going to be sued left, right, and center. We don't have the resources to really take this on. They kind of went back to the drawing board and said, but there is something that we should be doing about this, right? So they turned it around. They said, how about we publish a list of the best workplaces in US, right? Those organizations who are helping, supporting their employees, creating a great culture. And that is how Great Place to Work came into existence and was born. Uh, and we published our first list along with the Fortune magazine in US. And as of today, we are in 98 countries, and that count keeps on increasing. But the idea is very, very simple. Understand and assess workplace culture, what works well, what does not work well, and help organizations implement those best practices, right? And when Devina shared that the idea is to share and learn, I think we have a similar idea, and we kind of want to do that for all the organizations. The mission that we are on is to make India a great place to work, and cannot happen without the support of everyone here on call, and of course many more. But let me start with a very, very fundamental question. What is employee engagement? Right? We understand employees, we understand profitability, we understand all those metrics, financial management, program management. But what is employee engagement? That is something that I really want to start with. And before I give my thoughts, I thought, why not take the inputs from the audience here? We have a very, very small exercise. We've curated a form. It's on menti.com. The link is there on the web on my screen. I also have given the QR code. My request to everyone here is to just log on to this and just share what comes to their mind when we talk about employee engagement. It could be anything that they do in the organization, or something that they want to do, or something that they associate with employee engagement. We can take a quick 60 seconds to give our inputs, and then we will discuss the same. While we do that, my colleague Ashish is curating all the results. Ashish, once we are ready, we can go to the results, and we can see what everyone on the call thinks on employee engagement.
So I'll share my screen to show the results.
Sure. Okay, so we have, I see responses still coming in, but I can see happiness, I can see satisfaction, I can see cross-functional engagement, growth opportunity, collaboration, you know, motivation, transparency. A lot of these are very, very important. I must say I kind of agree to most of, and in fact, every input that has come in. Yeah, commitment, of course, right at the start. I think, but the question that we ask ourselves is, how do we get to these? A lot of these are outputs, if I would say, right? Motivation is an output, satisfaction is an output, empowerment is an output. So how do we, what is the input to all of this is what is more interesting for me. Yeah. And I will quickly go back and share my screen. Yeah. Okay. Now, while we saw all of this and commitment and motivation kind of came out as an output, I thought, let me share a story. Not a very, very happy story, but something that we can all learn from. All of us, I'm sure, are aware of what went on 26th of November 2008, right? The bomb blast, the attack on our country. And Taj Mumbai was at the center of it. I'll pick up one instance from this. And we had executives of a very big FMCG company having their meeting in Taj at that point in time when the attacks happened. These were all top level executives. They were going on as usual and discussing certain important initiatives there. There was a staff member of Taj stationed outside to take care of all needs, all help the executives in whatever way required. And that's when the attack started. Now, the staff member had two choices, right? Run, save a life. Nothing is more important than life, right? Or stick to her station, stick to her duty, and ensure that all her clients are safe, taken care of, and then look after her own safety. The fact that I'm narrating this, of course, is due to the fact that she did not care for her safety. She went ahead and ensured every one of those executives inside the room is safe outside the building, and only then is when she started looking out for her own colleagues. Of course, it came last that she would come out, but thankfully she was safe and she was out. Right. For me, when I look at employee engagement, I would say she is an epitome of employee engagement. She is the most engaged employee that anyone could have. Right? Does it come from the brand? Does it come from the business, the industry that she was in? I don't think any of these matter. I don't think it matters if you're a profit-making organization, a non-profit organization, a social organization. Nothing of this matters. What matters is the relationship that the employee holds. And when I look at relationship, we look at relationship on three axes within the organization. Yeah? And the first one, and I'm going to talk about all of these. The first one is the relationship that the employee holds with the management of the organization. And mind you, I'll keep repeating this. This is something that is applicable across. Today, you might be in a social organization and in an NGO. Tomorrow, you might be running a startup, or you might be running the biggest organization in the world. Doesn't matter. These relationships exist. Yeah, the relationship that employee has with the management. Does the employee trust the management in the first place? Yeah. the second relationship that we have is the relationship with the job that he or she does. And the third relationship is the relationship with the colleagues. Does the employee enjoy the company of it? But, and I say this, but all of these relationships, in fact, any relationship that we get into, be it in your family, be it with your brother, sister, with your spouse, there is one input and there is one building block that's important, and that's trust, right? If you don't have trust, nothing else matters, right? And that is the input that we should all seek in our organization. Do we have trust? Does our employee trust the vision that we have? Does the employee trust the steps that we take? Does the employee trust that we will do right by the community, by the society, and by the employee? Right? A lot of times, and I myself have been guilty of this, we treat our employees as secondary citizens. Yeah? They don't come high in our priorities. And that is where everything starts crumbling. So my first input to you and your first key takeaway is, how do we build trust in the organization? And if you're able to build trust, all of the other things that we spoke about, right? Motivation, commitment, transparency, all of these would fall into place, right? And this becomes a building block for employee engagement and for creating a great place to work. I'm going to talk about, we spoke about what, we also will speak about the whys and the hows of creating a great workplace, but I'm going to do that with a base of trust in the organization. In fact, anything that we do at Great Place to Work is centered around trust. Our model is called Trust Index. So essentially, we are trying to understand if any organization, what are the trust levels that they have been able to build. Okay. When we talk about trust, and I alluded to it just some time back, sometimes, most of the times, we treat our employees not high in a priority list. Yeah. But what we've actually seen, best organizations do, and again, when I talk about best organizations, I refer to organizations of all sectors, is ensuring that they win in the war for talent so that they can win in the war of customers, right? Now, let's contextualize it a bit. I know when we are working in a social sector, we are not there to win the war for talent in most cases. Yeah? We are there to help our customers. We're there to ensure that the customers get a better life, a better equipment, better surroundings, whatever it is. Yeah? So if I was to contextualize it, it's not about winning the market for talent. It's about ensuring that we win in our efforts to give a better life to our customers. Yeah? And it is very, very important that we have the right people, we have the right talent to be doing it, right? And if I was to do that and take that ahead, it is important that when we draw out our mission, vision, and values, we keep employees as a very, very important stakeholder. And yeah, like I said, these are some things that all of us would have done. I'm not even going to talk about it. This is customer is always right. Proactive customers, average customer is important, and considering that we keep doing workshops and keep speaking to leaders, there is a very, very clear distinction that is being made in organizations. You know what? This is my top performer. It creates the most impact. I am going to ensure that he or she has what is required. Or, you know what, this person does not seem to be engaged, may not be the right profile. Let's not pay attention. Something that keeps happening. It's the reality of the world, right? But there are organizations that have actually gone ahead and imbibe this key principles. Are employees equal to customers? What I do for my customers, I'm going to do very, very similar things for my employees. If I talk about employee value proposition, I'm sure a lot of us as organizations, as leaders would have created it. Is that on the same wavelength as a customer value proposition? Yeah. And one of the examples, and I thought I'll just put this up. This is from one of our best workplaces. It's an NGO called Seva Rural. I'm just putting the mission statement. Yeah. Serving the poorest of the poor, preserving values, and self-development of employees. This is their mission. Yeah? So while they do a lot of things and they are there to ensure that they're able to serve the poorest of poor, the marginalized. At the same time, they're saying our employees cannot be left behind. And it's no secret, Seva Rural has been the best workplace in India, amongst the best workplaces in India for many years now. And that is the impact that it creates when you start looking at employees as very, very important stakeholders. Okay. Are we looking at supporting employees as secondary, or are we ensuring that we support the employees first? We put the horse before the cart, and rest everything will be taken care of. Right? And all of these, while in theory would be great, right? And you would expect someone like me coming from Great Place to Work talking about all of this, something that we truly believe in. But what I thought was I will share a video, and this is from Professor Alex Edmonds from London Business School. Now he's someone who's looked at the social responsibility of business, who's looked at what works, what doesn't work, and actually conducted a very, very interesting research. Yeah, I'll play a 2-minute clip from his video on YouTube where he talks about what really helps organizations deliver sustained performance. Let me just go back and let me look at the video. Devina, confirm if the video is visible.
Can see.
Okay. Yeah. So, just let's offices from the slides here. That's what I set out to do.
Sunil, we're not able to hear this too well.
Sorry?
The sound is not very clear. Can't hear.
Is it better?
Not really. No.
Okay. I think let me then talk about it.
Yeah.
Sure. So what Professor actually did was he wanted to understand and he took business results as an outcome. Yeah. Wanted to really understand what drives business results and does employee well-being, employee engagement have a part in it. So to understand that, he took data from all the lists that we would have published, right from 2000, 2007, 2008. He took out all the data of all the best workplaces in US and said, let me see if these organizations, if they get recognized as best workplaces and they've created a great workplace, are these leading to sustained performance and sustained results? So he did a lot of statistics and correlations, and he found out that all these organizations outperform their peers by at least 3 to 4%, right? In US. And when I talk about 3 to 4% in US, that translates into 7 to 8% in India. But then also a question came up saying it could also be possible that because these organizations were rich in cash and had a lot of money they could spend, and the outcome was just a byproduct. It is possible that employee engagement was not the key factor. Then he went back again. He said, let me do more research. And believe me, he took 4 years. Yeah, a total of 4 years on this research. He did a lot of correlation, statistics, regressions, and so on, whatever it took to really isolate one of the key differentiators for this outcome. And it was very, very clear that employee well-being and employee engagement was at the forefront of it. Yeah. A very, very interesting video. I would urge everyone to really look at it. We can circulate the link of the video as well, where it's not only about business performance or profits. A lot of times organizations look at only one key metric. It could be, let's say, impact. But what is very, very clear is every organization has a social responsibility. And that has to be on the forefront. And when I talk about social responsibility, it is a responsibility towards all its stakeholders. It is the responsibility towards the customers, towards the employees, towards the managing committee, everyone involved. And if we're able to do this balance, it's only then that we're able to create a great workplace. I'm going to pause, Devina, if there are any questions, I can take one or two before we go ahead.
Anybody has questions? No one's posted anything in the chat box. So any questions? You want to unmute yourself and ask a question? Maybe we want to go ahead, perhaps
Yes,
towards the end.
I will.
We'll take the questions.
Yeah. And I come to the same, and I would want to just close out on the impact that organizations create, right? Every organization, and each one of you on this call, every one of your organization is going to be there on this graph. Yeah. Where if you were to plot your performance, your impact versus your employee experience, you will be able to know, and if you put your hand to your heart, you will know where you are. We've seen organizations across quadrants. We could see organization and the culture of comfort where the employee engagement is so high, but the impact might be low. Or the organizations neither have a great employee experience or great performance. They're at risk. More and more organizations post-pandemic are in the burnout zone, where we want to really create an impact and an employee experience gets neglected. And when I talk about hybrid workplaces, this is getting amplified even more. Right? So towards the end, I'm actually going to talk about what are some things that the leaders must do to ensure that they're able to drive a great experience for our employees. No secret, all of us would want to be in the top right-hand quadrant where we have great employee experience. At the same time, we are able to deliver sustained results. And that is what is called as a great place to work, right? So if I was to summarize the first part of my presentation, trust is what forms the building block of employee engagement, of creating a great workplace. However, we can only call ourselves a great place to work if we are able to deliver sustained results. If not, then we are in one of the other quadrants, but we are definitely not a great place to work. Okay. Now, when we spoke about great workplace, I'm sure a lot of us would have had an experience of working in multiple organizations. If you could just think of a time when you thought, oh, wow, brilliant, I'm working at a great place to work. And this is where I really want to be. This is something that I always dreamt of. What was that experience? What was it that caused you to think it is a great place to work? Something, was it your manager? Was it the policies? Was it the impact that was being created? It could be any one of those. And I can take my example. When I joined Great Place to Work, and I'd actually come from the MNCs. Our CEO has this practice, and he continues to have it every week on Tuesday at 7 p.m. He used to set up a call saying that this is your connect with the CEO. Uh, if you have any issues, if you have any problems, log on to the call or come and meet me in my cabin and we can discuss and we can try and find out a solution together. I am not going to judge you. I am not going to share this with anyone unless you don't want me to. But I am all yours. If you have a problem, I am there to solve. That was something that kind of created a wow experience for me, if I may call it. And I was wondering, what if all CEOs were able to do this? All leaders were able to do this. Employees now have a employees now have a voice, and employees now have some place to go to when they have problems. And this is what we also went ahead and we started doing, and we built a tech product around it. But essentially what we've said is, how can we ensure that all leaders, all CEOs, in fact, organizations have now gone to the fact that all managers should be actively listening. It's about giving them the platform to ensure that they can voice out their opinions. This, in fact, is one of the key differentiators of the best workplaces, of the great places to work that we've seen year on year, and then it's amplified post the pandemic. So in case in your organizations, you do not have those mechanisms, create a listening post, create a listening channel. It could be formal, it could be informal. Either ways, there are various ways to do it. It could be, some organizations call it chai pe charcha, some organizations would call it coffee with the CEO, and lot many names, right? But the basis of it is, can we really create a listening post for our leaders so that employees can come and voice their opinions? I am now going to shift my focus a bit. I'm actually now going to talk about what are those pillars, that will help you build trust amongst your employees. And this also forms the framework for Great Place to Work. A lot of you know different consulting firms will have different frameworks. You can keep those aside, but look at the building blocks, and that's what is going to be important. The first pillar, or the first building block according to us, and something that is very, very important, is credibility of management. Is the management credible? Does the employee think? And I will keep coming back to it. Everything here is basis the employee's perception, employee's feedback. Yeah. Is the management credible? Does the employee think management walks the talk? Is the management honest and ethical in practices? Right? Is the management competent in what it's doing? And something that is very, very important, and it also is a must do for everyone who is a leader in the organization, is communication. The first must do for a leader is communicate, communicate, and communicate. There is nothing called as over communication, but there is always under communication. And when I talk about communication, it is both ways. Yeah, it is top-down communication, we passing on the messages to our employees. And the second piece that a lot of us miss out on is bottom-up communication. Employees really sharing what they feel about. People on ground are going to drive and run your organization in the right direction. They are going to steer your organization in the right direction. So it's important that we keep listening from them. Yeah? So management credibility becomes the first pillar or the first building block for an engaged organization. The second one is respect. Does the employee experience respect while being associated with the organization? And respect is broad, but if I was to really peel that layer off and look at what is it that contributes to respect, The first one is caring. And when I say caring, it's caring for the person, not just the employee. Uh, Caring, and we've had organizations in both the for-profit and non-profit sectors who've gone to the extent during the pandemic of ensuring that the employees, their family members, and their extended family members are safe. Uh, and I actually will take an example from a for-profit here because again, that's something that has left an impact. We were working with with the largest steel conglomerate, right? And the employee shared that story with me. It wasn't the leader, it wasn't the HR team, but the employee kind of shared that story. I think we were positioned in the remote areas of Orissa, and at that time when the pandemic was at its peak, we had no way to go. We had no hospitals, we had no medical help. We were just hoping and praying that it does not come to us, right? Like all of us hope and pray right now that pandemic is over, but uh, unfortunately they got stuck. They had certain employees that got stuck with COVID. Yeah. Now it is very, very easy to think, what, it may pass, or we can't, we have to take care of ourselves. The employees will do that for their own. But this MD actually flew down his own personal chopper, uh, ensured that each and every employee was transported to the biggest city that was close by and had all the medical help that was required. Yeah. Uh, in process, he did not have the support that he might have required at that point in time, but did not care about it. Now the reason why I tell you the story is not because we should all start doing it. We might not have the resources that that person had, but it's about treating that employee as a person and helping them ensure that they are taken care of in whatever ways it is required. Yeah. The second is collaboration. How do we collaborate within our organization? And if it's the impact that matters, then collaboration becomes important, right? So when I say making India a great place to work, that's a very, very powerful and a heavy statement to make. We are nowhere close. We've actually seen, and all of us would have seen pictures when COVID hit, that there were, I don't know, lakhs and lakhs of people, daily wage workers walking miles to reach their hometown without support. They were left to fend for themselves. So if we are if we are a great place to work in our country, then of course this would not have happened. But that's the sad reality of it. And we cannot do it alone. We need collaboration. We need to collaborate within our teams, within organizations, outside organizations, to ensure that we create that impact. And we create a support system for our employees. All of this together forms, in broad terms, respect for that employee. The third one, and I'm sure something that all of us, when it comes to fairness, we know we've had these discussions internally. Are we being fair to our employees? Or more importantly, do our employees perceive us to be fair? It's all about perception. And how do we ensure that we have that sense of perception? Again, it comes down to the same thing: communicate, communicate, and communicate. We have to be seen as impartial. It can be as small as my leaders, when they come to my region, don't even come and visit me. They're unfair. They don't believe, and they're not really interested in the work that I do and the impact that I'm creating. Yeah? It could be as small as that, or as big as what, I was not promoted, I was not looked after, whatever it is. But I think the perception of fairness is important. Something that more and more organizations are able to do. But the third piece of it, justice, is another one that I would like you to really implement if it's not there already. If I'm unfairly treated, do I have an avenue to voice out, and will I be heard and then looked in, and then that case would be looked into? And this is something that the best workplaces have been doing. So if I look at Seva Rural, of course they have those practices, and these are not practices that require a lot of investment, because mind you, employee engagement is costly, if you look at it. At the same time, employee engagement is also an investment that will bear fruits in terms of impact, in terms of performance, in terms of results, if we are at it. But yeah, and the biggest investment as leaders of an organization that we can do is investing our time. So if you have to make a choice, and between spending time with your clients, with your seniors, or with your employees, and every time you select the other two and not your employees, it is going to come back and it's going to be a problem sooner rather than later. Yeah. In fact, I'll just take an example of the Nudge Foundation. That's again one of the best NGOs that we've recognized. Now, what they have actually gone ahead and done is created a culture of appreciation within their organization. So they have appreciation votes where anyone, not only the leaders, but any employee can actually come and write down great stories about how someone has helped them, or if they've seen an employee really go above and beyond and create that impact. They've not stopped at doing it internally. If you go to their LinkedIn and social media, they will also publish it. They're making heroes out of their employees. Yeah. And who doesn't like to be a hero? So that's what is pride all about, right? Am I proud to be associated with my organization? What's my image like? I'm sure in our sector, a lot of pride is prevalent, but at the same time, the job and the team that I work with, is there pride, is a feeling of pride amongst the three. Very, very important that we go beyond the organization and start having stories and start making heroes out of our employees, because they are the real heroes, and they are ensuring that our picture is a super hit and not a flop. And finally, camaraderie. No, is there a sense of community? Are we hospitable? And especially in this post-COVID hybrid world where you know, we don't even see people that we work with for such a long time. Imagine a new joinee joining your organization, and all that he is seen is names on Zoom calls and voices. That is it. How will he or she be associated with the organization at all? If I was to do that, I am sure I would leave the organization very, very soon, because I will never be connected. So we need to double down on our efforts to ensure that we welcome our employees, the new joiners for sure, but for the people who've already stayed there. How many times do we pick up the call and just speak to them outside work? How's everything going on in your family? These are very, very basic things, right? These are things that you would say that I already knew. Why come to why spend my time on a webinar like this? But the problem that we are facing is we are not doing enough of this, and we are really lagging behind as a country. We've kind of lagged behind on this. Just talk about the families, just understand what they're going through. Everyone's reality is different. If there is an employee who is really not performing as you desire, is it because of just the connection with the organization, or is there something that is running on his or mind? Something like a moodometer. In the past, I could just stand up and look at my team, and I knew my team was angry, happy, sad, anxious. Now it's very, very difficult. I really don't know what they are feeling until I go and meet them, and all of us know meeting each other has become a problem. So these are things that we are trying to implement to help organizations really understand their employees in real time basis. But uh, the thing that I want to leave you with is, start connecting more with your employees, even if it is for no agenda. Don't set up an agenda. Even if you call them after 7, after 6, and just speak to them, you will get to hear a lot about, and you will understand a lot about what is troubling the employees or what is driving employee engagement in that case. And this is what forms the framework for great place to work, and what forms the building blocks of a great workplace. Yeah, credibility of management, respect and fairness. These are things that we should be doing. These forms the input, and that's where the trust element comes in. And the outputs are pride and camaraderie. Yeah, so if you do the first three right, you know that the next two will be taken care of. And all the workplaces that we've assessed and studied and we've recognized, we've seen them work on all of these on war footing, if I must say. We've seen CEOs, we've seen leaders uh, really go out of the way, ensure that there is communication lines, channels open. Uh, we've seen caring, as I gave you an example, and justice is another key differentiator that organizations have really built right now. Um, and if I look at that, and if I look at that model, now the question gets asked is who really is supposed to do all of it? I'm not going to give you the answer right away. Rather, this is a question that I am asking you. In your opinion, what impacts employee experience the most? Or in other words, if we were to build trust, we have to be credible, we have to have a perception of fairness, we have to respect our employees. Who really is responsible for doing this? Yeah. And again, just wanted to collect your inputs on this. If we can log on to the same link, we'll have a different question there. Just wanted to understand who really impacts employee experience more in your opinion. We can give 30 seconds and my colleague Ashish will then show up the results. I would request everyone to log on to this link and please share your votes. Ashish, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. The screen is all yours. So we have HR team. Oh, I like this one. Huh? Employees themselves are responsible for their own engagement. Of course, yes, we call it active employee engagement, and that's very, very true. But we see managers, we see CEO, MD, founder, and a high percentage also to the HR team. Okay, Ashish, I'm taking the screen back.
Sure.
Okay, and I think we spoke about what the employee experience, that's the output, and of course it's not no denying the fact that the human resources, human potential are important stakeholders in ensuring employee experience, because all the policies, procedures are kind of uh, you know envisioned by them, and then they help in implementation. But it's the leaders, it's the people managers, and I must congratulate all of them who said managers and CEO, MDs and founders are people who drive employee experience, and they are the most important contributors to this, right? Till the time all of us keep thinking that it's an HR job, uh, we are never going to create a great workplace. And I can even sign on a stamp paper and give it to you. Not because they are not competent, but because the moment of truth is when the employee is talking to the manager, is connecting with the leaders. So we could have great practices, we could have great career development plans, we could have we could have ethics, we could have values, we can talk about well-being. But if the leaders and the people managers really don't believe in all of this, and like I said, don't treat their employees as they would treat their customers, we will not be able to create a great workplace. And this actually brings me to what we can do as an organization. And I'm just summarizing my entire presentation into these four key takeaways. Something that we've really seen work across industries, across geographies. All organizations that have become great places to work have people and culture amongst the top three goals of Apex leadership. We saw Seva Rural, they have it in the mission. Employees are treated just like their customers, and the same rigor and discipline is applied. We have people managers who own the quality of experience. These are people managers who are able to connect with their teams, develop their teams, and inspire their teams. Yeah. And finally, continuous reinforcement of positive stories by the leadership team. All of these together is something that we've seen as common factors in all organizations that are great places to work. I'm now going to leave you with some must-dos that every organization or every leader should have. And the first one I already referred to. Communicate, communicate, and communicate. And this is all for the hybrid environment. If you don't communicate, and there is nothing as over communication, yeah, you have to amp up your communication by 10x. Increase the number of forums, increase the frequency of your communication, increase informal chats, and be very, very open. Yeah? The leader cannot be some kind of a godlike or someone who is not human. Be more human to your employees, if I may so say, and be very open about the challenges that are being faced. If you open up yourself, the employee is also going to open up to you, right? It works the same as it would work in any relationship. So my first submission to you for all leaders in the hybrid environment is amp up your communication, amp it up 10 times, 20 times, 100 times. The second one is making listening a continuous process. Yeah? Capture feedback on a real-time basis. Very, very important. What is the moment of growth? And I'm going to give you the example of the Swiggies and the Zomatos and the Amazons of the world. The moment an order gets delivered to you, you get a feedback link. Yeah. The moment you finish a ride with Uber, you are asked for feedback. And if I was to go by the same principle of employee equal to customer, we should be doing the same thing. If the employee spends one day in office, why can't we take feedback? For me, that's my key area, and that's something that I work with day in, day out. And we're helping leaders there to really amp up their listening in the organization. So if anyone is interested to know more, I'll be happy to talk to them about it. Hybrid, when I talk about hybrid, what is our strategy really like? What is the back to office strategy? Is it always going to be hybrid? Why are we taking a particular decision? Are we really open to take opinions and suggestions from our employees? We really should. Yeah. So what happens if you call people to office and there's an outbreak again, what are we going to do about it? Of course, all of us are worried. All of us as leaders are worried, and we keep talking about it in closed rooms. Open the doors, let employees in, and let their voice count. And very, very important, go back and give them updates on actions taken, right? What is the action that we are taking on the issues that or challenges that we are facing? The third one, focus on well-being. Burnout is very, very high, especially in the hybrid environment. Very high burnout. And then I don't even have to look at the data, but if you were to go and look at all your high performers, all of them will complain about burnout. Unfortunately, right now we are running in the mode that the the outcome of great work is more work. That is what is happening with our high performers. How do we ensure that we dial that down? Keep a check on the mental, physical, and financial. I think all three are very, very important. Well-being and role modeling. If I am working till 12 o'clock, my team is going to follow suit. If I can take time off, they will have more courage to do the same. So role model, very, very important. And finally, keep reinforcing the why. What is the purpose? Why do we exist? One of the leaders that I know ensured that all of his reportees came back and said, what is the purpose of existence in the organization? And each one of them had to write it down. It cannot be ensuring tags or serving customers. It has to go way beyond. Are we connected to the purpose and the mission and vision of the organization? And share stories of impact regularly. What is the impact that we are creating? Go back. A lot of these would happen, very, very easily pre-pandemic, when all of us were together. But now in the hybrid world has become very, very difficult. So all of these, and I know I'm sharing very basic things that we should do, but I'm also very mindful that these are things that can be done very, very easily and does not require great investments except the investment of time. And like I said, the managers are the link. Managers have to focus on credibility, care, career growth, and ultimately they should be able to connect, develop, and inspire their team members. Yeah. I end my presentation by one final principle that I strongly believe in, and this goes beyond the boundaries of an organization. Every interaction that you do is an opportunity to build trust. Yeah? Every interaction would either increase the trust levels or reduce them. It is for us to ensure that we keep on filling up our trust reserves, and when we need it, we are able to fall back on it. And finally, I end by saying, build trust in your organization. That will help you create your own great place to work. Thank you. Thank you for being patient listeners. I hand it over back to Devina. If there are any questions, happy to take those.
Thank you so much for that, Sunil. We do have one question, but I wanted to ask if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask the question. Hi, Neeta, go ahead.
Hi. So at my previous organization, when I believe a lot in communication, and I used to create these newsletters and this and that and the other. But actually, the staff begged me, stop sending us so many emails. We don't want so much information. And I had to actually cut down. What is that sweet spot?
Sure. I think, the difference is a faceless communication versus someone who is actually a human who's communicating with them. At the moment you start sending a lot of newsletters, I don't know what is the intent behind it. And when I talk about communication, it's actually a dialogue that leaders have to do with their employees, right? So newsletters are good as a way of passing on some information, but I can guarantee you 90% of the employees won't even open the emails after a point in time. Yeah? But if you as a leader are standing there and conducting the talk, you will have much more participation. So humanizing the communication is important. If you were to look at, if you were to ask me what is that sweet spot, I would say 70% should be more human communication and 30% could be the faceless communication.
Great. We do have a question in the chat box, and I'll just read it out.
Sure.
Oh, Nandita, you want to go ahead, and then I'll take that question.
Thank you. Thanks for this excellent presentation. Sorry, my video, I don't know if it's okay. The network is not too good. So my question is, we work, we do a lot of counseling, right, in our work, and we employ a lot of women who have multiple tasks. So they have a lot of domestic responsibilities and, people falling sick, in-laws, spouse, children, and it's very emotionally stressful for them. Now, I think people who are wounded very often gravitate towards fields like this where they want to help others, but it's very important that they take care of themselves and, so we talk to the staff who need it, talk to them about counseling, that they need to go. We've had counselors come and do group sessions, but there's a big reluctance in getting professional help. Now, we thought as an organization to insist on this and say, we'll pay for 3 sessions, you have to go. Is that okay, pushing somebody like that? I mean, it's something I grapple with.
I personally wouldn't. And you're right. And I was talking to one of the leaders and we were comparing India, China, US, and just looking at, how many of people really seek professional help, right? While it's improving in our country, it's still not very, very helpful for our people. I think what helped that particular organization, Nandita, was the fact that they did away with the professional counselors, essentially saying that they would have leaders listen to their employees. They might not be able to help and give them the direction, but the first step is give them someone who they are comfortable with and they can share their issues, their problems, or whatever is going on in their life, right? That becomes that missing link, so that once they have opened up with the leaders, the next step would be going to the professional. So instead of directly going to the professional, I think the first step is ensuring that within the organization, you have a pool of people who can become the listening board or who have time, who share bandwidth to listen to people and share stories. So that is the first step that helped, Nandita. And then the next second step was going to the professionals. Well, I don't have data around how much it helped, but that's something that I've seen organizations do.
Right. So we do that, Sunil. We have the program heads who do the first round and then regularly meet with their team. And this is the program heads coming to us and saying, you know what, this person is going in a loop. And every time it is the same issue again and again and again. And at the same time, targets have to be met, or this job has to be done. Or so, then of course, very often I come in and talk to them also. But I mean, they really need professional help. It's not something that, I mean, employers should not be giving that kind of support. At the same time, we do have professional counselors, but I don't think they should be providing it to their colleagues, right? It has to be a very confidential, private space.
Right.
So yeah, and I know it's expensive, so we're willing to pay, but somehow that step is not there. I know it has to do with motivation, and there's a cycle of change and so on. I thought like maybe you have faced this as part of the work that you do. But thanks, it's helpful to hear from you. Thank you.
We do have 2 more people who want to ask questions. Subin, can I request you to go first? And Ekta, could you follow the question after that?
Sure.
Yeah. Hi, Sunil. Thank you so much for this wonderful session.
Hi,
Yeah, my question is like I've been part of the SMEs, MSMEs actually for quite some time, and
Yeah.
this aspect of providing platform to employees to come and share, to give that space for them to speak, has always been a fear factor among the management.
Right.
Will I be able to handle their queries? Will I be able to give resolutions? Will they go back more frustrated because when they can't find the answers,
Yes.
so we have had cases where people have shared, and then the disappointment is that we've been talking so much, but we've not got any. I mean, there would be cases where resolutions have
Yeah.
happened, but for those whom the resolutions do take time, everything is not instant. They go back very frustrated, or they are not very happy. So
Right.
I mean, the confusion or the challenge for the management is, it's a great thing to have a space to listen to people. But what if we are not able to address their concerns? And would that increase the level of frustration among employees? Is what I really wanted to understand.
I think great question, Subir, and that's something that a lot of leaders are going through right now. And I personally work with leaders, and that's the same concern that everyone has, right? Um, but I think the only suggestion that I have always given, and I've really seen it work, is go back to the employees and say why a certain thing is going to happen or not happen. When I talk about employee engagement or listening, it doesn't mean that every opinion or every suggestion is taken forward and implemented. Right? That's not something that that I'm recommending. But rather, going back and telling the employee why certain thing is not going to be done, and we will not do it. Right. So, for example, in one of the organizations, they clearly mention what can you expect from the organization. This is what we will offer you. This is what we will not offer you.
Right.
Right. And if you are okay, then we are happy to have you in the organization, and you can join the organization. But if you are not, I don't think we are a good fit. Yeah? So it's very, very important to go back and say these are some things that you will not get, even if it means if it's work-life balance, for example. Right. If something that's not something that I can offer, let's not promise that, and then be very, very upfront about it. Go back, tell them this is not going to happen, and this is the reason why. And we've seen employees understand and actually come back and say, maybe what, maybe I was being irrational. Maybe this is something that we can park for now. So again, I said going back, having that open dialogue is important. What becomes a challenge is that if there are suggestions and we're not doing anything about it, we keep it in closed lockers. That is the biggest risk that you carry.
Right. Yeah. So it's more like facilitating a dialogue, but knowing what to commit and what not to commit, in sense that make it even as clear as possible. Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough. Yeah. Thanks, Sunil. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. Hi, Sunil.
Hi.
Thanks for a lovely session, first of all. Okay. So my question is, while I understood everything about employee engagement, all the activities you spoke about, how we as leaders have to take care of every small things which we normally oversee at a particular point of time. What I want to know and understand here is that, can this also result in or help in the employee being with the organization for a longer duration because they feel more engaged, they feel more heard, they feel that valued and acknowledged in the organization? Because sometimes this personal rapport that we create with them probably also makes them quite free with us in terms of discussing any point of thing, which is okay, which is good. But at the same time, every employee would be very ambitious that if, in spite of the fact that they get everything in the organization, they would want to switch to another organization because they would want to learn and explore. They would want to try something else also. And at that moment, you as a leader on one side will feel that, yes, it's good for him or her to learn and that person might as well go. But at the same time, professionally, you are creating all this environment so that we can give them more learning opportunities, growing opportunities, and they might as well sustain in the organization for a longer time.
Right.
End of the day, we want team to sustain. So how should we bring a healthy balance over here?
Right, right. No, I think great question. In fact, whenever I go and seek feedback, right, or when we are implementing this in an organization, one of the key things, and I'll read out the statement that we have. It says taking everything into account. I would say this is a great place to work. Yeah. What we're trying to understand is what is the emotional connect that the employee has with the organization.
Right.
So it could be 10 things that are great, 10 things that are not working. But having said all of those, I would still think that it is a great place to work because I have that emotional connect. Yeah. And you could correlate it with cities that you're born in. You could talk about 10 things that are great in Pune. I could do that, 10 things that are not so great. But would I want to switch and move to another city? Maybe not. I have that emotional connect. I've been born and brought up here. I've grown here. And that emotional connect should always be higher than what your objective feedback is, right? That is the leverage that you carry as a leader,
Right.
to make mistakes, to make improvements, and like you rightly said, grow an individual. There will come a time, Ekta, where you would want, and if you have the best interests of your organization, of your employee at heart, you will say, you know what, maybe move on to a different organization because you will be better served there. If you reach that level and that kind of a comfort, I think none of these webinars and all of this are not required. You are already in a great place to work. Yeah. So that comfort, that emotional connect is important.
That's true. Just one more question here.
Sure.
When we think about all these factors, is it important for us to bring it during the recruitment of the team also? Because let's say we are starting off a new division or there is something else, we need more people in the organization. They definitely would not know how good the organization is. They will interview, they will come, they will leave, they will come, they will think of something, etc. They would want to join, but they will get a better opportunity. So probably this can be a bit more challenging during the recruitment also sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So, one of the principles that I have personally followed is if it's only about a better pay that anyone is joining, I will never hire that person. Yeah. I personally, we would spend a good 2 hours explaining them what our business is, what we do, what our mission is. And the only thing that we try to then understand is this person really interested in the mission, or it's external factors like pay and all of those things. If there is a connect between the mission and the person, is only when we hire them. Right?
Okay.
Otherwise, the best people we've let go.
I think that's okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you so much. I think we're at time where we've overshot a little bit, but thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Sunil. We've got great feedback and a lot of comments in the chat box. But yes, thank you for the session. I'm quite sure all of us are taking back key learnings. We'll try and implement it. We've already had folks actually mentioning the changes they want to implement at their organizations post this session. So great, thank you so much. Everybody, we will share the recording of this session with you. We will share Sunil's email ID as well with you, should you wish to reach out to him for any conversation, any extended conversation from this. Yeah, great. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.